Hello student, in previous video we have seen some of the question answer. Now in this video we will move further from page number 196. The first question, that how is soil formed? So as I explained in explanation part of chapter number 14, in that the topic soil. So in that we discuss about the first topic, that the factors which is affect on a soil formation. So that all the factors we have to describe in this question, means how is the soil formed. As we know that there are several natural factor who cause the soil formation. In that such a factor like sun, water, wind and living organism. As we know that during the daytime, due to the heating, due to the raising of the temperature, the rock is expand, and and during the night time this rock is cooled down, due to that the contract. But this is contraction and the expansion process is not equally, because the rate is different. So due to this uneven rate in the rock, the crack is occur, or you can say that due to that the rock is broken down. And same like the another factor like a water, due to the force of the water or waterfall, along with that force the many rocks comes along with the waterfall, and these rocks are rubbed with each other, and it ultimately causes the breaking down, and then it is help to soil formation. Another thing, that is of wind, same like due to the pressure of the wind the soil is rubbed, and due to that it's form a bigger molecules or bigger particles of the soil is turned into the smaller one or rock as well. And the third one, that is of living organism like a lichen. This kind of organism who make the shelter on the rock, and that organism secrete some of the chemicals which leads to cause a breaking down of the rock. So these things we have to discuss in this question. So let's see the answer. The soil is formed by the breaking down of the rocks at or near the surface of the earth through various physical and chemical and the biological process by various factors such as the sun, water, wind and the living organism. So in that the first one we will see about the sun, how the sun affect on a soil formation. The sun during the daytime, the rock are heated up by the solar ray, and this due to this heating process it causes the rock to expand. And during night time the temperature is decreased, means the cooling effect is occur. Due to that the rocks is cooled down and it's contract. But this expandation and the contraction is not even, or you can say the rate of the contraction and the expandation is not same. It is uneven. Due to that it ultimately causes the breakdown, or you can say the crack in the rock. The next one, that is main factor which affect on the soil formation, it's the water. The water, it helps in a breaking of rocks in two ways. The first one, that it goes into the cracks and the crevices from into the rocks. When this water freezes, its volume it's increased, as the resultant the size of the cracks is also increased, and which helps to weathering of the rocks. And the second way by the second way of soil formation by the water is that the water moving in fast speed, which carries out the big and the small particles of the rock from downstream, and this rock rub against each other, and ultimately it results the breaking down of the rock, and these smaller particles are carried away by the running water and deposited down its path. and due to that the water is help to formation of the soil. Now the next affecting factor which leads to a soil formation is a wind. The strong wind is a carry away rock and which cause the rubbing of the rocks, and it ultimately cause the breaking down of the rocks into the smaller and smaller particles. Then after the last one, that is a living organism. As I told you, like a lichen, some of the living organism like a lichen helps in the formation of the soil. The lichen grow on the rock surface and convert them into the powdery form and make the soil layer. And in the same way, the plants like a moss also help in the making of the fine soil particles. How this rock is converted into the fine soil particles? Due to this kind of organism who secrete the chemicals, or you can say the secrete some kind of enzyme who cause the rubbing, or you can say the powdering of the soil, powdering of the rock, and due to that it easily penetrate the root inside the rock. So this is the answer. Let's see one more time. If asked that, write down that how is the soil formed, and this question is asked in a 4 marks, then you have to write down in a detail each of the factor. You have to define well how it's lead to a soil formation. So let's see the answer. The soil is formed by the breaking down of a rocks at or near the surface of the earth through various physical and the chemical as well as the biological process by various factors such as the sun, water, wind and the living organism. For example, sun, how the sun is play important role for the soil formation. Then during the daytime the rock are heated up by the solar ray, and this cause the rocks to expand, and during the night time these rocks cool down and contracts. Thus the cracks develop into the rock and they break down. The second major factor leads to a soil formation is the water. It's help in a breaking of rocks in two ways. The first one that it goes into the cracks and the crevices and form into the rocks. And when this water are freezed. Due to that, its volume is increased, and as a result, the size of the crack is also increased, and this lead to a weathering of the rocks. The second point that wherever the water is moving in fast speed, which carries the big as well as the small particles along with that, like a downstream, and this rock rub against each other, and it ultimately resulting in a breaking down of rocks, and the smaller particles are carried away by the running water and deposited down its path. The next affecting factor who leads the soil formation is the wind. The wind is a strong, this strong wind is carry away these rocks which cause the rubbing of the rocks, and due to this rubbing the breaking down of the rocks is occur, and due to that this bigger rock is converted into the smaller and smaller particles, and then it is formed a soil. It is converted into the soil. The next one that a living organism. The another factor who leads a soil formation is the living organism. In that we have to write down about the two example, the lichen, or you can say the lichen, and the another one that is of moss. So these both are the such a kind of organism who secrete the chemicals, or you can say secrete the such enzyme who able to convert this rock into their powdery form, because they want to penetrate their root inside the rock. So this some of the living organism like a lichen helps in the formation of soil, and this lichen grow on the rock surface and converted them into the powdery form and make soil layer. And the same way the other plants like a moss also helps in the making of the fine soil. So if I ask that write down how the soil is formed, then you have to write down about the such a factor who leads the soil formation, like a sun, water, wind, and the living organism. And then how exactly they affect that detail you have to write down. If the sun is there, then the major point that you have to write down, that is about the temperature rising and rock expandation and the contraction, and due to uneven rate the cracking is occur. And in the water factor you have to write down two ways, the one that is of a crack and the surface form in the rock, and when the water is freeze the volume is increased. And the second point you have to write down about the speed of the water. Whenever the downstream is occur, then the bigger rock and the smaller rock rub with each other, and it ultimately causes the soil formation. And the third one, that is of wind. The strong wind carries away the rocks and which cause the rubbing rocks, and its resultant it's converted into the smaller and smaller particle. Then next one, that is of living organism. In that you have to write down about the lichen and the moss. In next video we will see what is the soil erosion. Thank you.